we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Wednesday edition For You Bet. Airing live right now on the Coverage YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button right down there somewhere. It's got a great big show planned for you guys today because we've got a great big game in the NBA Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Mavs, T-Wolves getting after it in Minnesota. Also a good-looking board in Major League Baseball. Good mix of afternoon and evening action. And for the first time in the history Before You Bet, we're making a little bit of history here today. We have some golf picks. That's right. We're bringing in some other sports with the NBA starting to slow down a little bit here. So yeah, if you like betting on golf, this will be your destination to get some picks on the Wednesday show. Before You Bet, we have Greg in the live chat saying Portland, Maine is in the house. Great sweep yesterday. Good day for your boy in baseball. Make sure you follow me on X, JTFOZ. Strong season so far. And shout out to Portland, Maine. I've been to Portland, Maine 3 or 4 times in my life. I grew up close to the border in Maine. I've been to Bangor, Maine, probably like a dozen times in my life. If you're watching from Bangor, Maine, let us know. Shout out to Greg in Portland, though. Okay, a lot to get in here. Here today, if I can make it through without choking here. NBA, let's bring in our guy, Jon Metler. John, I'm going to have a drink. Will you tell us how you're doing? How are you making that?
I'm doing better than the Indiana Pacers, that's for sure. That was a complete, Halliburton dribbles it out of bounds the first time, not the second time in overtime. Then the pass to Siakam, everything that Brown makes a 3. I mean, the Pacers should have won that game easily, but it is what it is. It was a choke job.
Well, the Celtics almost blew it, and then the Pacers blew it, and they let them off the hook because Tatum and Brown were pretty much invisible for about 95% of the fourth quarter. And then, of course, Brown hits that 3-pointer to bring it into OT. And then Tatum looked very good in overtime. We'll give him a little bit of credit there for that. But red flag after red flag here with the Celtics. Such an easy path. They get to the playoffs or up until this point of the playoffs. They should have lost that game yesterday. And it seems like they just try to get by on their talent. Joe Mazzulla with some of these rotations is like, why are you playing with your food at this point? It's game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think they're going to lose in the finals to whoever they play in the West. But just some downright stupidity for the Celtics. And sometimes the moment looks a little bit too big for Jason Tatum. He tends to shrink a little bit. Okay, so that's that game. We got the game to get into tonight, but we were off on Monday's show, and we usually do these little obituaries for these teams as they exit the playoffs. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but I do want to touch on the Nuggets and the Knicks. So my big takeaway here for the Nuggets is that this league moves quickly. A lot of people probably would have picked them to win the whole damn thing here going into the playoffs, but I do think the Nuggets should be looking to make some tweaks here during the off season because we're going to come into the season next year. Minnesota is still going to be really good. The Mavericks are still going to be really good. Oklahoma City is probably going to be better as well. And they had some awful losses in this series versus the Timberwolves. So they lost 3 times on their home court, including a 26-point loss in game 2. Then they blew a 20-point lead in game 7. Not to mention a 45-point loss in Minnesota in game 6. So one and done for the Nuggets. A lot of people like them to go back to back. Any parting thoughts here for the Denver Nuggets, John?
I'm not to be Captain Obvious here, but I think Michael Porter Jr. is going to be on his way out. They need, he's got a big salary too. So they can obviously package some things up there too. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's a free agent. I think that's someone they have to bring back. But it's going to be with a raise probably. I mean, so that's where the issue is with Michael Porter Jr. As long as they have that trio of Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Aaron Gordon, I think the 3 of them together, those 3 just fit like perfectly. Like you couldn't figure out a better trio of players that just work off of each other. As long as those 3 guys stay together, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Honestly, I think they really just ran into the wrong team. I think the Timberwolves are the team that's built to beat them. They ended up beating them in 7 games. you could almost, if you're the Nuggets, you could almost make no changes and come back next year. And if you just don't play the Timberwolves, you could win the whole thing again. So I think I think they're fine. They'll have to make some changes because they're way over, like they're over I think the second apron of the luxury tax too. So they have financial issues there as well too, but they'll be right back there. As long as they have Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, we'll see them probably Western Conference Finals next year. So they're a great team.
Yeah, it appears as if the Timberwolves might be the team of destiny here this year. Nick Newport Jr. in the chat weighing in. The Nuggets didn't get any better in the offseason after their championship. They need to re-up that bench if they're going to compete moving forward. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. No one coming off the bench for the Denver Nuggets scared anybody, in my opinion. Very quickly, not a whole lot you can say about the New York Knicks. They were beat to shit and they ran out of steam. A lot of people probably would like them in that game 7. I liked them. I didn't expect them to lose the way that they did, but we got to give the Pacers credit offensively. They're shooting just lights out in a very tough environment in Madison Square Garden. So very impressive stuff from the Pacers there. But yeah, you can't really knock the Knicks at all. Like I said, ran out of steam, great experience going forward. Maybe build up that bench a little bit here. I doubt next year in their playoffs they're going to be rolling with like a 6-man rotation. But yeah, just too many injuries. But the East is going to be a lot better next year. Johnny's Orlando Magic are on the way up. I'm willing to guess that Giannis will play in a playoff game or two next year as well. But yeah, battle-tested team. I think great experience here for the Knicks, and I won't be surprised if they're in a mix again next season. Any final thoughts on the season here for the Knicks, John?
When they announced Jalen Brunson fractured his hand, I was like, oh my God, I know the Pacers were up like 15, 20 points at the time. I was like, please win, Pacers, because the next series would have just been, if they didn't have Jalen Brunson, that would have been not fun at all for any of us for the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks, I think, so from opening night till the end of the playoff game, when Jalen Brunson left, they didn't have a single starter from opening night that was playing in that game. Josh Hart wasn't a starter. Dante DiVincenzo wasn't a starter. Isaiah Hartenstein wasn't a starter. It's they were very injured. They also, those players should be starting, and that's a different story. But you bring back Julius Randle, they're going to make some changes too. I think Hartenstein's a free agent. He's going to get, I think people are going to be surprised with how much money Isaiah Hartenstein signs for. He is an extremely underrated player who's going to be of high value. His defense, the screens he sets. He's also a big part of why Jalen Brunson's offense was doing so well, because he sets such good screens in the pick and roll. It seems silly, but it's very underrated part of his game. He's going to get paid quite a bit. They're going to make some moves. I think Julius Randle might kind of be the odd man out here with whatever move they make. He's probably going to be the salary that they trade back, because that's how it works in the NBA. So I know I saw maybe Mikal Bridges they were talking about.
Yeah,
next.
A lot of people are throwing that out there. The counterpoint to that seems to be, why would the little brother in the Brooklyn Nets help out the big brother, the New York Knicks? I do understand that logic behind it. Nets, really, you're going to go. I probably have to go into a rebuild at this point here. Leroy James says, what are the chances of KD trying to find his way to New York? Yeah, I'm of the mind that the Suns aren't going to trade Kevin Durant. I wouldn't be shocked if they do. I wouldn't be shocked if Durant leaks some more bullshit that he's unhappy or something like that. But bringing in Budenholzer, I think Kevin Durant's a big part of the planning there going forward. So I don't think they're just going to throw in the towel here in Phoenix. They probably give it one more season. Okay, so we have one game tonight, and we have a lot more than one pick for this game. We have 7 total bets here for this game. So let's get rolling here, John. A bunch of props. I'm on the full game spread, but gotta start with Luka. What do you like or not like for him tonight?
So I'm going Luka Doncic under 29.5 points. It was minus 122 at FanDuel. I think FanDuel's really the only one trading at 29.5 at the moment. There's a bunch of 28.5 out there as well. This isn't even necessarily a high total for Luka Doncic when you look at what his total usually trades at. Sometimes it's 32.5, 31.5. It's usually in the 30s for sure. So it's not necessarily that this is even a high total. I just really, he is injured. He had some time off here. I just really don't see how they free him up for someone he can still score 25 points. That goes under the total, right? I just don't see how the Mavericks can free him up for 30 or more points. We'll see how they cover him tonight, but Doncic is someone who's kind of slow, methodical, very, very smart with how he plays. And now you're going to run into a situation where the primary defender, probably Jaden McDaniels, he is, he's got a huge wingspan. He's got positional size. So now Luka, with that injury, you kind of need to be able to like separate to shoot over top of him. You can't just shoot over top of him. And then also when like Luka gets into the lane, you have not one, but two, like against the Thunder is just Chet Holmgren. You have now say Towns or Gobert, they come as help. And you necessarily can't even just throw it over the top to a big guy or to another dunker because they'll have a free safety 7-footer behind him as well. There's just so many different ways they can guard him. And I think he's going to be the focus of the team defense, which is what they did to Jokic. Anthony Edwards did say that he's going to be locking up Kyrie Irving. So it looks like it probably be Anthony Edwards one-on-one with Kyrie Irving, kind of like how they guard Jamal Murray, Nickeil Alexander-Walker one-on-one, and all the help went to Jokic. I think all the help will be on Doncic, and that's why I'm going under. They held Jokic under a bunch. I think the positional size is going to be a big problem for Doncic because he's not going to be able to get in the lane and just bully his way to free throws or some easy layups like he typically does. There's way too much size in this Timberwolves roster, and he's injured too. I mean, we'll see what it looks like tonight, but he's had a couple of days off. I just think 29.5. He was struggling to get over his total last series. He went over the last couple of games there, but I don't know. I'm going under for game one.
Okay, so we have a spread of 4.5 points for this game. I am going with the home team, Minnesota Timberwolves. I like them to cover, win this game by at least 5 points. So Dallas has been at its worst in game ones in the playoffs. So 2 game ones, obviously, in the 2 previous rounds. They lost both of those game ones by double digits. And this is actually a carryover from 2022, where they went 0-3 in game ones in the playoffs that year. And the T-Wolves, exact opposite. They're starting very strong in their series so far. Game 1 versus Phoenix, they won by 25 points. Game 1 in Denver, they won outright as a 4.5-point underdog. And as Jon kind of touched on, I do think this is a much tougher offensive assignment for Luka and Kyrie. I think going to be an adjustment period here for these guys. They're going from playing the Thunder, who allowed the most points per game to opposing guards during the regular season, to one of, if not the best defenses in the NBA. So I like the T-Wolves to take care of business here on their home court tonight. Moving on, Derrick Jones Jr. What do you like for him?
Yeah, I'm going Derrick Jones Jr. over 8.5 points. This is, he's someone, the last 3 games here, he's gone 17 plus points all 3 games. But even like game 6, when you play 40 minutes on the road, game 6, you have the opportunity to close out the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you're playing 40 minutes. This is not someone who, he's honestly giving kind of Caleb Martin vibes from last year. This is not someone who's just like a role player who's playing 24 minutes anymore. He's completely, like, Jason Kidd trusts him. He's fully in the rotation. And like, you look at this total of 8.5, he just didn't, like, this is what he was trading at the first series of the playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers. And even kind of in the regular season, near the end of the regular season, this was the number. There's really just no adjustment to this total, despite the fact that he keeps kind of going over, which is shocking because you'd expect that, especially in the playoffs, you'd expect that to go up. I do think this series against the Timberwolves, they're going to need him and they're going to need his offense. So not only do I think his minutes are secure from like a defensive standpoint, because he's their best perimeter defender as well. So he's going to probably guard Anthony Edwards. I'm not sure if they'll go do PJ Washington or Derrick Jones Jr., probably a mix of both. But Derrick Jones Jr. is also someone, like, I was watching previous games, like he met Gobert at the rim a couple of times and blocked them in the regular season. So he's also a help defender who can come over and protect the rim, which is they're going to need against the Timberwolves as well, on top of starting guarding Anthony Edwards. I just think you're going to find a lot of scenarios where, Luka and Kyrie, like you said, they're going to get in the lane. They're going to run into the size of the Timberwolves. They're going to kick out to shooters. Derrick Jones Jr. will be in the corner for 3. He's also someone who, like, athletically, when he gets to the rim, he can maneuver and kind of has like trick shots around the rim. He's going to need those too against the Timberwolves. So I just think his game kind of fits in with how they're going to need this series is going to be all about the other guys. In my opinion, the other guys are going to have to make shots. They're going to have to score. He's someone he's just going to work off of Doncic and Kyrie, and 8.5. I think that needs to be moving up. His role is way different now than it was even a couple weeks ago. So I'm going over 8.5 points.
Okay. Next up for me, Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points, minus 102 at FanDuel. The 19.5 is at minus 135 over at DraftKings. I don't mind the 20.5 at minus 102. So he has a rich history of cooking the Mavs. Check this out. 21 or more points in 14 of his last 16 games against them. Fills it up against Dallas. He scored 29 and 24 his last 2 times out against them this season. Lopsided games versus the Nuggets limited his minutes and production. You'll take a look and see that he averaged 18.6 points per game in the series. Not very impressive, really. However, a few of these games got out of hand and cut into his minutes, cut into his shot attempts. So unless this game gets out of hand, expect him to play into the high 30s in minutes. And is Cat clutch? You might not associate Karl-Anthony Towns with being a big game player, but his shooting percentages, both 2-point shot and 3-point shot, the percentages are higher here in the playoffs. Notably, very impressive from 3-point land, shooting it at 44% in the playoffs. So feed Cat the ball, over 20.5 points. Okay, moving on. Naz Reid, his teammate. What do you like for him, John?
Yeah, it's a similar vibe to Cat, just different player. So I'm going over 9.5 points, minus 115. So Naz Reid, you know, when you look at like how the Nuggets regarding Anthony Edwards, they're building walls. The lane was extremely crowded. The Timberwolves needed their shooters to help create space for Anthony Edwards. Nothing's going to change from that front in this series. They're going to need the exact same thing. There's going to be a lot of shooting. They're going to need like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jay McDaniels, Naz Reid to knock down threes to create space. The one thing I do like about Naz Reid, you know, I was looking at his 3 points prop. Why I'm going after his points prop. The Mavericks have great rim protection. They have, you know, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, who they'll meet you at the rim. They can block shots. The thing is they only have one. So, and they rotate Gafford and Lively out. So they're only playing one at a time. So Naz Reid, to me, like the Mavericks, other than that, like they don't really have, last time, I don't know if this is going to be like Luka Doncic on Naz Reid. It kind of could be, or like even when they go to their bench, like what size are they bringing off the bench? Like Josh Green is a bigger, like stockier guard, but he's not Naz Reid. So I do think we'll see the Timberwolves run some actions where they're getting Naz Reid into the post, or at least giving him an opportunity to get downhill and kind of throw his weight around and bully his way to the rim against this team. Because, you know, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, they're gonna have to stick with Rudy Gobert, and like only one of them will be at the same time. They've never really faced like the two bigs at the exact same time. This is where they kind of miss Maxi Kleber to a degree, where they could have that size and shooting. So I just think Naz Reid, you know, the 3-point shooting is going to be there. He's going to have to take shots for Anthony Edwards, and the Mavericks have shown them zone in the past too. If they go zone, it's just going to open up more 3-point shootings for Naz Reid as well. I just like the points more than the threes made, just because where it's trading. And I do think there's an opportunity for him to bully his way to the rim. And I just don't really know I'm very curious to see how they're going to guard Cat and Reid, because I feel like that's going to be a problem for them. Once the double bigs is going to be a problem for them. So I'm going to Naz Reid over 9.5.
Speaking of which, Douglas Farmer, our coworker here at Covers, make sure you follow him on social media. He's in heaven right now. Yeah, our resident Minnesota Timberwolves fan. In regards to my Karl-Anthony Towns over bet, he says, writing up that exact bet right now, Joe. Who on Dallas's roster can defend Cat? At best, Lively, Gafford, that's a mismatch. And there is no ready double. There we go. Let's go Cat. Okay, bonus bet for me, guys. No graphic for this one. Maybe a bit of a sneaky spot here. So sportsbooks specifically, I know DraftKings and FanDuel have over-under point totals for players specific to the first quarter. For Kyrie Irving, I'm going to go under 4.5 points in the first quarter. Why do I like this bet? That's at minus 110, by the way. Why do I like it? He's getting off to extremely slow starts here in these playoff games. He's averaging 1.6 points in the first quarter. And he's not throwing up a lot of shots, just 2.6 shot attempts in the first quarter in the playoffs so far. So you can bet those at FanDuel, DraftKings. I know a bunch of other books probably do offer them, but I bet that one specific at DraftKings. So Kyrie under 4.5 points in the first quarter. John, last NBA pick here for the show, Kyle Anderson. What do you like for him?
Kind of a random one. I'm going Kyle Anderson over 1.5 assists is minus 115. He's just, you know, in these playoffs, his minutes haven't been there relative to the regular season, but he's also being priced that way now. So like when I look at this prop, I only really need about 12 minutes from him to establish a pretty nice edge on this number of the 1.5 minus 115 for Anderson. With it being a game one, I do feel like it's possible that he could see more minutes, just because all the head coaches, you know, in game one, you're kind of trying to figure out your chess pieces, right? Like you're not just going to be like, nope, we're only playing these 5 guys the whole rest of the series. You're going to throw in different rotations, just kind of see how it's working and stuff. I do think Kyle Anderson can find himself kind of in that rotation, specifically against the Mavericks, because one, if they play zone, which they have shown in the past, he's someone who you can get in the middle of that zone and he can start to facilitate. And then the other thing too is, even if they don't play zone, Anderson's also just someone who just kind of like can weave his way through the lane and kind of bait the rim protection of Lively and Gafford and then throw it over the top to Gobert or Towns or just create shots for other people in that way. So I like that too. I also kind of like, they're not going to make him the primary defender, but just from like a help defense standpoint, I think there's a chance Kyle Anderson gets a little bit of minutes too, just because of Luka Doncic. Like Anderson's 7'3" with his wingspan. He's a pretty good defender, but he's very methodical. But so is Luka Doncic. They kind of move at the same speed to a degree, right? And I just think he's someone who would like, if the Mavericks are trying to create switches to get certain defenders on a Doncic, you bring Anderson in. That's not necessarily someone you're going to want to attack because he has a wingspan. He can just be disruptive. He's not going to take the bait on like all the Luka like pump fakes and all that stuff. So I do think there's also like he can kind of help them defensively against Doncic, which help his minutes. I'm not looking for anything crazy here. Just 12 minutes from Kyle Anderson. We'll see if he gets it or not. If he gets it, I feel like we have a nice edge on this 1.5 minus 115.
All right, John, we have a poll up in the live chat over on YouTube asking people to weigh in on their pick for the spread tonight. 76% of viewers are on the Mavericks plus 4.5. Now, I'm not necessarily a big fade the public guy, but often I would prefer not to be on the side of the public. I am on the side of the Timberwolves. I do understand the case for the Mavs, an additional day rest for them. Minnesota traveling back from Denver. You can go with the whole letdown spot theory if you want to go with that approach. But yeah, that doesn't scare me off. I like the Timberwolves here tonight to cover the spread. Okay, John, that does it for your appearance today. But let the people know where they can find the rest of your work.
You can find articles on covers.com, daily prop picks, also on our prop picks page. You can follow me on X at Jon Metler. And also we have our NBA release show Tuesday, Thursdays, 10:30 a.m. So come tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Adam Scherher from EV Analytics will be releasing more props. So make sure to check us out there as well.
Yes, sir. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you again on Friday.
All right. See you guys on Friday. Good luck with your bets.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, let's get into some Major League Baseball PGA coming right up. So I'm sitting at around 16.5 units on the season. I am on a quest to cross the 20-unit mark. So let's get off to a good start here today and get closer to that number. So we have the Astros Angels getting after it late this afternoon. I'll be fading Hunter Brown, going to take under 16.5 outs for him. It's at minus 130. He's 1-8 against this number this season. Typically doesn't pitch very deep into games. And why would he? He has a 7.71 ERA. He's gotten lit up a lot this season, 4 or more earned runs on 4 separate occasions. Now you might be like, well, Joe, come on. He's taking on the Angels. They stink. They don't stink as much as you think. They're actually pretty hot here. They're 4th in OPS with a league-high 13 home runs over the last week. You pull back, take a look at a bigger sample size. They're actually above average versus right-handed pitching, 11th in OPS versus righties over the last month, 6th in hard contact percentage. So even if he pitches well, I think the Astros would be happy with 5 innings of work out of Brown. So under 16.5 for him. Next up, let's go to Philadelphia. How about those Phillies? Hard not to like that team. Taijuan Walker on the bump, going to take over 15.5 outs recorded for him. So he's had 18 or more outs in 3 of his 4 starts. He's got a pretty good excuse for the game where he didn't reach 18 or more. It's because he was injured. A comebacker drilled him off the foot. He needed to be removed from that game. Good matchup for him here tonight. The defending World Series champion Texas Rangers struggling quite a bit versus right-handed pitching, 28th in OPS over the last 2 weeks. And this guy's an innings eater. They're in no rush to get him out of the game. They'll let him work out of jams. He's 21-8 against this number since May of last season. Typically pitches better at home as well. So Walker over 15.5 outs. And a walk prop here for you guys. Austin Gomber. What a game this is tonight in Oakland. The Rockies in town. The city of Oakland absolutely buzzing with the Colorado Rockies in town. Over 1.5 walks, minus 115. I think odds makers might be sleeping on this one. Why? It's because he's walked 2 or more in 7 of his 9 starts this season. And to bring it all together even more, Oakland is walking at the highest percentage versus left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks. I don't know if you guys follow me on X or not. You should, JTFOZ. You see it right down there. But I was kind of curious. I was going through the matchups this morning, and I was thinking this has got to be the shittiest possible game that Major League Baseball can make. Maybe if you threw the Marlins into a one game, but in Oakland, probably the worst place to watch a ball game with probably the worst team in baseball, the Rockies in town. So I said, what are tickets going for this game? $19 to sit 28 rows back behind home plate. That's a pretty good seat. $19. By comparison, you're looking at around $200 in Chicago tonight for the Braves game, taking on the Cubs there. So, these walk props, I think sportsbooks might be getting wise to them a little bit. A lot of the guys who usually like to bet, Tyler Anderson, that's usually auto bet, auto parlay. His over 1.5. He's at 2.5 today. McKenzie of the Guardians, he's at 2.5 there today. So, but Gomber, I do think that is a good spot. Over 1.5 walks. Okay. Who's ready to make a little bit of history here today on Before You Bet? We're going to start to mix some other sports in. Obviously, there's a weekly golf tournament. We have the Olympics coming up. If you're looking for NHL coverage, Jingles does a fantastic show here, so make sure you are subscribed to the Coverage YouTube channel. So we kind of let those guys own the hockey beat. But let's get into a little bit of PGA. And let's bring in one of our guys here at Covers. He does fantastic coverage of the PGA for us, Neil Parker. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Let's rock and roll, buddy. Let's get right to business.
Yeah, let's get right down to it. So I asked Neil to come prepared with his 3 favorite bets for the tournament, the Charles Schwab Challenge. So let's get it started here, Neil. Maverick McNeely, top 40. You like him to have a decent showing here. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, Maverick McNeely's delivered at tracks that require precision and shot placement. T6 at the Waste Management, T9 at the Players Championship. He's also coming off a T23 last week at Valhalla. But the biggest thing with Maverick McNeely, Joe, he can roll the rock, man. He's second in this field in true strokes gained putting across his past 124 measured rounds. So I'm expecting fairways, greens, circles on the card. Big week for Maverick McNeely.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's get into some plus money here. We have a plus 130 spot over at DraftKings. Keegan Bradley, you like him to finish in the top 30 here. Break this one down for us.
Yeah, for sure. So Keegan, 3 top 25 finishes in his past 4 events. He's also gained true strokes on approaches in 6 consecutive tournaments. Bradley was first in true strokes gained off the tee and 12th in true strokes gained tee to green at Valhalla last week in the PGA Championship. And of course, the thing with Keegan Bradley is that, yes, his short game is a shortcoming, but he has been better and hasn't bled strokes on or around the greens in the past 4 events, as noted. But the biggest thing, Joe, and this is impossible to quantify, but he's got this new little shimmy shake in his pre-shot routine. I'm kind of digging it, and I think he's going to have a good week.
Yeah, maybe that's what I should try. That can help me finally break 100. Something I'm yet to do. I'm still relatively new to golf, but maybe get a little shimmy into my swing here. That will cure all my issues. Okay, let's wrap things up. You like another top 40 pick here, Lucas Glover, top 40, minus 110 on this one. So why do you like him to finish in the top 40?
Well, the glove, he's a tee to green machine, man. He's played the weekend, 6 consecutive events, while ranking 4th in true strokes gained tee to green, 7th in driving accuracy. And Glover has also gained strokes on the greens in 4 of those 6 tournaments. The biggest thing with him too, though, is we rewind a year and there wasn't a player in the world that was playing as well as Lucas Glover. So he's a hot putter away from contending any single weekend because he just fairways, greens, and one of the best ball strikers on tour.
All right, Neil. So like I said, the NBA, NHL slowing down a little bit. So maybe people looking for some new sports to bet on. I don't have a lot of experience betting PGA. So we'll let you do the heavy lifting there. But if somebody's looking to place some bets on golf, what are some tips you have? Some of the first things maybe they should be looking at?
Well, I look to these finishing position markets as my sort of my bankroll management to allow me to sprinkle on the outrights. It's really difficult to pick a PGA Tour winner, especially when Scottie Scheffler is just dominating the fields and trading at such a low number. So I like to attack these finishing position markets and then also sprinkle on the outrights. I use each ways at Bet365. But ultimately, if you can nail down a few top 40s, top 30s, top 20s every week, you'll have a sustainable bankroll for when one of those 40-1 long shots hits.
There we go. Some responsible gambling advice from Neil. Neil, before we let you go, let the people know where they can find you and the rest of your work.
Yeah, covers.com, NHL and PGA content. And you can catch me on X, Neil Parker Bets. And I really appreciate the time. And Joe, thanks, man.
Yes, sir. What a debut by Neil. Neil, thanks for joining us. We look forward to more of your work. We'll catch you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. What a debut by Neil. Make sure you follow him. He is your guy for PGA and golf betting picks and golf betting coverage. He knows his shit. Pretty good with the hockey there, too. Okay, quick recap of my picks here, guys. I like the T-Wolves to cover -4.5. Karl-Anthony Towns over 20.5 points. Kyrie Irving under 4.5 first quarter points. Major League Baseball, Hunter Brown under 16.5 outs. Taijuan Walker over 15.5 outs. Austin Gomber over 1.5 walks. Shout out to everyone in the live chat today. Nick, Greg, Maurice, Douglas Farmer, of course. Dell is in there running his mouth. Leroy James. If I missed anyone, I do apologize, but we do appreciate you guys tuning in, building a nice little community here on Before You Bet. Okay, so that does it for the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be right back with you on Friday, same time, same place. Until then, best of luck with your bets.